let's do this. Take $100 million leads, and I want to walk through how you think about book marketing. So let's just focus on the cover.
Okay.
And then just show it to the camera. And what I want to hear is, as you talk through it, how did you think about leads, the icon, the subtitle, and then we'll talk about the back of the book after.
Okay. So the cover, I basically had to make the decision. So this was the first book. I was like, am I going to do something totally different, or am I going to just basically make this into a series?
So immediately what we see is $100 million the same.
Yeah.
You took out the testimonial at the top. That's what I see.
Yeah. And so I just went with another color. There was really no rhyme or reason for blue. I was like, blue sounds fine.
Yeah.
In terms of the icon, I'm pretty sure I wanted to do a magnet. I just kind of was like, you want to attract leads, and I couldn't think of it. Was either going to be fishing or a magnet.
I think I saw somewhere that you A/B tested the heck out of it.
Yes. Yeah. So I A/B tested the heck out of this. I A/B tested probably like 3 or 4 of the image of different magnet variations. But the word leads, I tested the hell out of. And so I had $100 million promotion, $100 million advertising, $100 million leads, $100 million marketing, and leads was the one that won. And so I was like, okay, if leads is, and kind of interesting though, because leads is the output of advertising. And so no one wants to advertise. People want leads.
Huh.
I mean, that's Alex's conclusion. I could be wrong. I haven't tested it, but like,
right.
But if someone said, why do you think that, that would have been my answer. And so I tested it because what's really interesting, I mean, and to be fair, it's like kind of the contents of the book is people do judge a book by its cover.
Of course.
And if you're going to go through all the work of writing the book, which is significantly harder than testing the cover and the title, like do that, right? You know what I mean? And I think the first time I heard about this was, I think Tim Ferriss tested the 4 Hour Work Week for his book, and he hated the title, but it crushed all the other titles. And so because he's like, I don't even really believe in like just only working 4 hours a week, but it murdered. And so that's what the book became, and obviously became a bestseller. And I read this, there was this like white paper that was released by this publishing company, or that helps self-publishers. And they talk about this dating help book that sold like no copies. And
I saw this.
Okay, yeah. And then all they did was they changed the cover and they changed the headline, or the title of the book, and they became like an international bestseller. And when I saw that, I was like, all right, this is important. I should take the time to actually like make sure. Now, the big picture, that was basically how I picked the headline and then the image. And then the subhead, I also tested a ton too, which is how to get strangers to want to buy your stuff.
And how do you test that? When you say this, what I would assume is I go to Google and Facebook and I see what drives the most traffic, but how do you test the subtitle?
I can tell you. I have the actual tests here. So it's like, okay, I had the realistic versus the cartoon version. So I tested that out. And so the real one did better. It also was aligned with the real image I had the first one. So I was like, okay, that's good. Advertising crushed promotion. So I was like, okay, advertising's the winner. And then I did advertising versus leads. Then leads was the winner. Then I did leads versus marketing. Now that one was really close, but leads still won. So that's why I ended up doing leads. In terms of subheads, I only showed 2 of the tests here, but I ended up doing like probably 5 or 6. How to get more people to want to buy your stuff. How to get strangers to want to buy your stuff. So strangers narrowly beat out more people. Now, this is the one that I thought was the most interesting test of the whole thing. So how to get more strangers to want to buy your stuff. How to get strangers to want to buy your stuff. 71% to 29%. Like just one word. And so when I saw it, it's like, it's so sensitive. And I just come in with like no ego about what I think it's going to be. And even because some people are also like, hey, you should do a shorter version. So just get strangers to want to buy your stuff versus how to get strangers to want to buy your stuff. 70 to 30 with how to in front.
Right.
And so even word concision wasn't necessarily the thing that people kind of like optimize for.
Right.
And so anyways, I tested the how to the title, the image, and the subhead, because fundamentally anybody who's in my audience who has read the first book, they have a high likelihood of buying the second book if they got value from the first one. I'm not making that for them. I could just call this book 2, and they probably would have been willing to at least take a shot on it. I have to make this for all the people who don't know who I am. And I have to optimize for that one split second decision where they're like, it's like, actually it sounds pretty good. Like, and it's clear. Like, what does this book do? Get strangers to want to buy your stuff. Okay, what's the opposite of that? Leads. Okay, this makes sense. I need leads. So I'll buy this book on how to get strangers to want to buy my stuff.
Right. Back cover. Talk to me about that.
So this is like my little mini sales letter. So I just wrote this as like kind of like blind bullets of the stuff inside of the book. And so I basically just took the chapters and tried to translate it into a bullet that doesn't say what it is, but gives kind of like the benefit of it.
But hold on, when you say this is my mini sales letter, that is like uber Hormozi brain going to that. So what matters in a sales letter?
So you can get 2x, 10x, or 100x more leads than you currently are without changing anything about what you sell. That I think is fair. Like it's a fairly compelling promise. And so then it's like, okay, I want to learn more about that. Now the next kind of like bigger fun is I wrote this book to solve your leads problem. And if you talk to small business owners, the largest reason that people will say, if you look at like the small business surveys, why they go out of business, they say lack of lead flow, lack of marketing, lack of new business, whatever. Second is running out of money, but I see that as
lack of leads.
Right, chicken egg. And so then I put a little bit of proof. So it's like today our companies generate 20,000 new leads per day across 16 different companies, 16 different industries. And they do it using 8 never go hungry playbooks inside. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. They're so powerful they work without your permission. Right. So like once you use it, like you don't have to believe it's going to work. It just works better. Period. And so, the easiest way to get another 5 customers tomorrow. So that's warm outreach. That's the first of the core 4. So what's the benefit of the core 4? That's warm outreach. It's how you get first 5 customers. The hook, retain, reward system. So that's content. So that's the second chapter. And so I just talk about the media's part of it for that. 6-part ad framework that gets more people, especially strangers, to want what you sell. That's going to be the paid ads chapter. And so I just took the chapters and turned them into the benefits of the chapter.
Those are super specific.
That's
what strikes
the
me.
bullets?
Yeah, right? Because if I look at these bullets, right, the 6-part ad framework that gets more people, especially strangers, to want what you sell. Yeah. How to get people to want what you sell would be like, but you're like, there's actually a lot of things going on. 6-part ad framework. The specificity leads to credibility there. More people, especially strangers. To me, that nuance is like, yo, I've thought about this. I know how you think well. And these are just very concrete.
But yeah, so that's how I thought about the front and the back cover of the book.
I like it.